So I want to make use of this profoundly crucial time in our history to say a few words about the body and silence. Yesterday, I took a walk up on one of the highest trails on Mount Tam, the far western slope of Mount Tam that looks out over the ocean. It was a spectacular day. And there were three things that stood out for me. One was the ocean was glass. There was no wind. So from Point Reyes to the Monterey Peninsula, it was like a clear mirror of the great clouds above the beautiful, huge bundles of clouds and crystal blue sky. So that really stood out for me. The second thing that was strange and wonderful is there was not a single person around. Parking lots were all empty for the various trails. On the trails that I was on, there was nobody. So that was wonderful. And there was something else that was strange, and I couldn't quite place it. And suddenly, an airplane came over, and it was only one of two airplanes I heard in about an hour and a half. And of course, that western side of the coast is a big flyway north and to the Arctic crossover and out into the Pacific, across the Pacific to Hawaii and on. And I was struck by the utter silence. No wind, no planes, no people. And it reminded me of another day when I had that experience, which was 9/11. I didn't know that 9/11, the Twin Towers had been hit, and I was hiking in that same trail. And it was puzzling because it was utterly silent. There were no airplanes. And I realized in both cases, I get so used to airlines that even when I'm in the wilderness, I think I'm in the wilderness. But overhead, there's this network of airplanes flying. And that provoked a series of reflections in me about how important silence is to really excavate the meanings of my body and the world. One of the events of my long life that stands out as a big turning point was my senior year in undergraduate at University of Santa Clara. Our senior class went to a monastery for a retreat just before graduation. And I was hit, so the rule was no talking for 3 days. That simple withdrawal from conversation blew me away. It was like a bomb hit me of how much I had jabbered and how much everyone around me was jabbering for my first 21 years of my life, filled with words. And here, silence, no words. And that drew me into a long stint in the monastery where I was silent for a good long time. And then another moment carried that further when I met Carl Rogers, who said almost nothing. He could go for 3 days with a large group of people and say maybe 200 words, if that. And the strange thing was he was a very kind, simple man, no pretensions. And I was absolutely terrified in his presence because he wasn't talking, which meant I had to fill the silence, which I didn't want to do because I had too many demons. So these are very big moments in my life, and they led me into this field of somatics, creating this field of somatics, because I realized I couldn't be like Carl Rogers. I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I couldn't keep my mouth shut because it was so filled with words. And when I was first Rolfed, I realized that I felt underneath this was nothing. It was like an egg shell, emptied, like the Russians do before Easter, and paint these eggshells. So I needed to get a sense of fullness here inside, so that then I could be silent. I'm saying all this because it's a blessing right now in the midst of this earth-shattering, culture-shattering event we're all participating in, where silence is imposed on us. We have no choice. Oh, we do have a choice. You can turn on the TV all the time, or you can turn on your iPhone all the time, whatever. Talk to yourself all the time. But it's an enormous time of silence, where there's richness, much richness to be gotten here. Taking stock of where we are, where we've come from, what we're going to do from now on. One of the persons that I've learned a lot from this about is men